Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in, my friends. Come on in and let's speak about sugar talks. Yes, yes, yes. Tonight is about sugar talks. We are starting a new episode with my Sweet Life Squad. Yes. And I want to have Grant Campbell here tonight. He's my first guest. Not sure how, we're going to unfold everything, as Sugar Talks begin. However, this here I think was very appropriate to start our episodes off. And so, yes, I'm waiting on people to come in to the chat. Welcome,
Good
welcome.
evening, everyone.
All right. Okay. So, hello, Felicia Marie B. Thanks for coming in, honey. Thanks for coming in. It's the Kim J and Grant Campbell of it all. Yes, yes, yes,
Uh,
yes. And I think they call you in these YouTube streets, GLP-1 YouTube streets, that is, what, the Earl of Campbell?
yeah, Joe started that. He said, "Well, we got King Darian and the Earl of Campbell." I was like, "Oh,
Yes,
I'll take it."
yes, exactly. Awesome, awesome. So I know, Grant, that you've been a great supporter to a lot of people, channels within the GLP-1 streets, and we thank you for coming in tonight. Greatly
My pleasure.
appreciate you. Yes. Um, let's see. Let me see who else is in this chat. Okay, this is Pammy. She's in the chat. Thanks for coming in, Pammy. She says hello, Kim J, Grant, and Felicia Marie B. All right. What a great thumbnail, too. Thank you so much. Pammy says, I sometimes have trouble with my videos premiering correctly. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Pammy. So Felicia said hello to Pammy. Pammy speaking back. Let's see what else. Felicia says, Grant, walls match the background of the street.
Yeah,
You
it
see
does,
that?
doesn't
You
it?
see that? Yes.
And my lovely plastic covered window to keep
That's
me
all right. That's all right.
warm.
Hey, you have windows, right? So you're good.
Yeah.
and and you have windows that work. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. So hello, Cookie. How are you doing? Thanks for coming in, sweetheart. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hope you're doing well. All right. And then so Pammy says, I just shared the live. Thank you so much, Pammy. I greatly appreciate you. So you all, thanks for coming in. This is my new series, Sugar Talks, yes. And it's about, just talking to some people or, me talking about different discussions about diabetes, right? Um, it's something that I don't see a lot in our GLP-1 community to actually talk about the diabetes of it all. And, that's something I think is, very dear to my heart because I have type 2 diabetes and I'm trying to reclaim my health. And so, I started a channel to talk about health and reclaiming the health. And so I want to make sure that, we all are able to reclaim our health if for some reason we are on a health journey. And so, with that being said, I've heard the cry of some people or the inquiries of some people to say, hey, why don't we talk about diabetes so I can learn about it? Even if I'm not, diabetic, I still would love to understand what's going on, in our community with people that have diabetes. A lot of us that have diabetes, we're on a weight loss journey as well, but we have a lot of people that's in the community talking about, dropping weight. And I know Grant, he's, was able to reduce weight himself on Mounjaro because he's on that too to fight diabetes, okay, but also to combat obesity as well. And then myself included in that fight of obesity. But, first and foremost, it was I got on this journey so I can fight diabetes, okay? That's, my thing, as well as I have, comorbidities of, high blood pressure and kidney disease. And I'm also trying to make sure those cholesterol numbers are where they're supposed to be as well. Okay. So I think this is very important to talk about diabetes. You know, whether it's type 1 or type 2 or even type 3 diabetes, they have more, you know, they're learning a lot more when it comes to diabetes, and they even have like I said, a type 3 diabetes. I've heard so much about different, different diabetes now than what we are used to hearing type 1 and type 2. So yes, I think this would be a great platform to talk about it and like learn a little bit more. And I want to do this with my Sweet Life Squad. So yeah, Sugar Talks, welcome. And I appreciate you, Grant, for actually, being my first guest on this platform.
Well, I love the idea ever since Felicia mentioned it those weeks
Yes,
ago.
yes, right. And I
So,
definitely have to make sure I give my girl Felicia Marie B her props because yes, we talk, a lot just about different things. Her dad has diabetes and some other people in her family. She does not have it, but she's very interested in the topic. She knows a lot about it herself, but she loves hearing about it and wanting to learn more. Okay. So we talk about it quite often. And just kind of compare notes sometimes with, her dad and I, and how she wants to take care of her dad and make sure that he lives as long as he possibly can, and be in good health. So yes, he's on Mounjaro as well. And so as we were, we continue to talk about things. She's like, Kim J, I know you're trying to grow your channel in 2026 to broaden it. And I want to learn more about, diabetes. I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. In this community, I hear more about weight loss, whether you're on Zepbound or, Mounjaro, or, if you're on semaglutide, you know, all I hear is about weight loss, weight loss, weight loss. So let's talk about diabetes, because that's what your channel is about. You're talking about it. So, she thought of that, the topic, Sugar Talks. And I was like, that would be interesting. That would be good to, have a series about that. So we're excited about it today. Yes. All right. I did invite my Zepbound crew in as well, my Wegovy crew in as well. You don't have to actually be on Mounjaro or Ozempic or the other GLP-1 medications. You don't even have to be on a GLP-1 medication to talk Sugar Talks. Okay, just if you're a diabetic or you know a loved one that is, come on into the chat. We welcome you in because we want to learn as much as we can about, how to combat diabetes. There is a way to do it. This is not a death sentence. Okay,
right.
this is something that we can manage, and we have been managing it very well for those who I know that are on diabetic medications. So we want to make sure that this channel broadens to not only just, like I said, weight loss, but just in general reclaiming our health. Okay, even though most of my Sweet Life Squad now, they're on one of the GLP-1 medications, but I want to reach a further audience, just whoever is, maybe on, like I said, some of the things that I've been dealing with, the comorbidities that I deal with, or, even other things. So we're going to see how this goes. Yes, I'm excited about it. Thank you, Felicia Marie B. Hello, Grace. How you doing? Hello, hello, hello. Who else is in the chat? All right. So Grace says, Pammy, I was listening during your walk. Very interested about insurance covering the lower tummy tuck. Yes. Awesome, awesome, awesome for you, Grace. I'm sorry, Pammy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. So Mariella, how are you doing? Thanks for coming in. Can't stay long, and that's fine. Thank you so much. Yes, if you will watch replay, I'll greatly appreciate it. And make sure you're all hitting the like buttons. I greatly appreciate that. Just trying to get, like I said, these episodes out to the people who may need it most. All right. Who else is in here? And I know everyone is kind of talking amongst themselves. Felicia Marie B says, I'm excited to hear about diabetes, talking more about the diabetes of it all. Yes, 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 yes. And again, if you don't have diabetes and you're in my chat, I would really appreciate you for coming in to, be here with me as well as Grant Campbell. Greatly
Hmm.
appreciate you all. Love you,
Absolutely.
love you, love you so much. Hello, Brenda. How are you doing? Thanks for coming in, sweetheart. All right. Who else is in here? Hopefully, I didn't miss anybody. Hello, Z. How are you doing? Thanks for coming in. Hope you're doing well tonight. Okay, I think we're done here with the
Mhm.
chat so far. All right, so Mr. Grant Campbell, do you want to, introduce yourself just in case they do not know who you are?
Oh, sure. Well, I'm Grant Campbell. I'm from West Virginia, and I've been on the Mounjaro journey since January 25, January
Hmm.
19th, so a little over a year now.
Okay.
And, diabetes is what started it all for me. And uh, ever since I've been on this medication, it's just been amazing how good it works. And just thankful to the Lord for it.
Yes, I know that's right. I know that's right. And I too feel the same way. Found out I was diagnosed July 2024. So a little bit, longer than you have been, but I started my journey at the end of July,
Mm.
to the Mounjaro journey, so I can better fight diabetes as well. So that's, I decided to start my channel a little bit, you know, in January of 2025. So last month was my 1 year anniversary at the end of the month. And yes, I'm happy about, being on Mounjaro. It has helped me tremendously, to get my A1C lowered down to back to the normal range. Now, for me, my A1C was 15.1. What about yours when you started your journey?
11.3.
11.3. So that is still off the scales.
Yeah.
So when I say off the scales or off the chart, the doctors or powers that be, they have a chart and that they use, and anything over that 10, it's like it's off the charts, right? So they try to make sure that they get it down as soon as possible, as quick as possible. So for me, Grant, I actually had to go to the hospital when I found out I had, and I just went for a routine checkup, and just like your annual wellness visit. And when they did my blood work, they found out that my A1C was 15.1. Never knew I had diabetes until then. It was July 3rd is when I went to the doctor, and then I have a portal that tells me when the blood work is back, and they, I saw it was 15.1. I'm like, oh my gosh, would have never thought it was be that high. And so you know I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? And of course, a little panic came out. A little anxiety was, hitting me really hard. And it was July 4th weekend, Independence Day, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? So my doctor called me first thing that Monday. Well, it wasn't first thing, but first thing I guess at the beginning of the week, and they were like, you need to go to the hospital right now. Call your husband, ask him to come pick you up and take you straight to the hospital. And so I went to the hospital, and I'm sorry, y'all.
It's all right.
Hold on. Let me turn my thing off. Hello. I'm on live. I'm on live. I'm on live. I'm on live. All right. Hold on, y'all. I'm sorry. That's my
You're
baby.
okay.
My baby girl calling me. Just a moment. Let me try to get her dad to kind of help her. She's like, I need you. Hold on.
Um, well, to answer your question, Felicia, while she's doing that, um, I've
Okay, I'm sorry.
other elements I've ever had to deal with is just high blood pressure, high cholesterol.
Hmm.
Felicia asked me a question there, so I thought I'd answer while you were doing it.
Thank you.
Um, and the other thing with the diabetes part that I've suffered with is the neuropathy of the feet.
Hmm.
I've actually been close to having to be amputated a couple toes. So
Okay.
that was back in June, actually. Uh,
Hmm.
but uh, several miracles of God kept that from happening. And
Hmm.
uh, I could go into more detail there, but
Yeah.
basically, I got to the right place.
Right.
It was able to scan deeply enough to see that I was not needing to lose anything, just a little bit of a bone in my toe, and that was it.
Awesome. Yeah.
So, that's thankfully healed since then, and I attribute the lower A1C to that too, because it wouldn't have healed otherwise.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
because diabetes is just a vicious circle. It could affect your limbs to where you don't know something's wrong, you could lose
Right.
that, and then
Right.
it can also affect your kidneys, which affects everything else in the
Hmm.
circle of life there,
Yes.
your heart, your lungs, all that. So
Right.
getting it under control helps all that not to happen.
Right. And that exactly what you're saying, and that's something that what made me scared, about it, when I was when I was diagnosed with it. So that's why I was like, this is so important for me. And I think Sugar Talks, it comes right on time, so we can better understand what's going on. Because even if you don't have diabetes yourself, like I said, another family member can, and we want people to understand how dangerous it can be, but also understand that if we can live with it and live well with it, and live long, and prosperous with it. So that's why I decided, that it would be a great, time to start discussing a little bit more about diabetes. Yes. So
Absolutely.
thank God that you were able to, you know, do what need to be done so that you won't, lose limbs and everything. Yeah.
Yes.
So just going to jump back in the chat real quick. And Pammy says, I think it's great to have a male talking about type 2 diabetes. Yes, I agree, Pammy. I agree. Hello, Miss Linda. Just going to go ahead and, say hey to a couple other people
Yeah.
that has joined the chat. You want to say something, Grant?
No, go ahead.
Okay, okay. All
Mhm.
right. Miss Brenda says, I don't have diabetes. I'm lucky, but my husband has diabetes. My best friend and both parents passed from complications from diabetes very young, and both parents were also amputees. Yes. Um, Part of kind of what Grant was just explaining, you do definitely have to be careful because diabetes can give you neuropathy, and also it can get to the point where you have issues to the point where you have to get certain things amputated, limbs amputated. And so it's definitely very important to make sure that we are doing everything that we can to lower our A1Cs and our blood glucose numbers, which is the blood glucose numbers are the daily numbers that we look into. We should be checking our numbers. Of course, your doctor is going to tell you how to check it, how often you should. Like for me, I check it um, once a day. Grant, when do you check your blood sugars?
Well, I don't do the blood test every day. I
Mhm.
rely on my CGM a lot. But, like just now before we started, my CGM started saying I was going low. So I
Mhm.
said, well, better get my blood test out and see if
Mhm.
that's true. And
Yes.
it didn't end up being true.
Right.
So thankfully for that. And you can usually tell because
Hmm.
any diabetic can tell you, and it's at different levels. Some people feel it sooner than others, but you can feel going low.
Yes.
You get the diabetic shakes, I call it.
Hmm. Yes.
And I really don't feel the shakes until it's down to like 50. But I've talked to others at church and stuff, and they'll be like, "Gosh, I start shaking at 70," and I'm like, "Well,
Right.
that's my normal range." So
Yes.
it all depends on just your body and how you're wired. But
Hmm.
um, thankfully, I don't have to prick the finger too often anymore.
Okay, good. So, Grant, you said CGM. So, for those who don't know what CGM is, you want to, let them know what CGM is.
Yeah, that's the device they came out with years ago called it stands for continuous glucose monitor.
Right.
And most people put it on their arm.
Hmm.
Um, Although I saw the other day that somebody actually puts it on the front of their thigh to help against rolling on it when you're sleeping. I
Right.
didn't know it would work there. I might try that next time.
Right.
But
Right. All right.
um, in any case, it doesn't really measure your blood. It measures the interstitial fluid, or however you say that word, right under the skin, and it's a little delayed compared to blood, but it still gives you the whole picture, just a little slower than a blood would. Uh,
Hmm.
but thankfully, that technology's there to help preserve your fingers because that gets old real quick.
Yes, definitely so. Definitely so. And yes, I actually use the what we call, like you said, continuous glucose monitor as well. At the beginning of my journey, helped me a lot. I want you to kind of go into a little bit more detail with that. But
Yes.
before we do, it definitely helps, um, especially beginners who are already nervous about everything when it comes to diabetes. Okay, I've learned that I'm diabetic. What do I do now? you know and so they want you to use um a glucometer so that you can prick your finger. I'm not sure if, for those who don't know anything about diabetes, or don't have diabetes, it's like a little device that they will give you, and you would actually prick your finger, and you put the blood on the actual device, and then it will read the numbers for you and tell you how much, what your blood sugars are, okay, or your blood glucose is. And you want to make sure the blood glucose, if you're fasting, you're not eating, like say if go to bed at night, you wake up in the morning, and then you check your blood sugars with that glucose monitor or the glucometer. When you do that, it's you want to make sure your sugars, your fasting blood sugars, are 70 to 100 deciliters, anywhere between that number. That's where it should be, especially if you're non-diabetic. But if you're a diabetic, I've seen numbers where they say it can go up to like 126 or 130. Okay, it just depends on what website you're using, what your doctors actually state. Now, like I know, Grant, you were saying you don't normally feel, or you were talking about the shakes. Yeah,
Hmm.
some people do have, if their glucose goes down too far, you know, then they're normal, then they will start, feeling like shakiness in their bodies. Okay. And so for me, I don't normally feel that until I get to 50 something too. Okay. And so you don't want your blood sugars going under, at no time of the day, under 70 deciliters. Okay. And so that glucometer will let you know. But if you don't want to continue to prick your finger every time, because the glucometer it does read your blood glucose like most accurate, but it's only for that moment. Okay. But the great thing about that CGM, which is what Grant is about to start getting into, um, it's like he said, it's approved for it to be placed on the back of the arm. Okay. And Grant, you can let them know also what, how often you wear it. How, do you wear it, you know, every day for how many days or whatever. You can
Sure.
talk about that a little bit, but you put it on the back of your arm. That's the approved spot. You should not be putting it on the stomach. That's not the approved spot anyway. A stomach, I've heard people do, and I've seen it, as well as, like you said, the leg.
Yeah.
Um, People kind of do, you kind of do what you think you need to do best, right? When you
Sure.
get home. But the
Mm.
approved spot again is the arm. And if
Right.
something for some reason, like Grant was stating, he had a false alarm, because it alarms, that device alarms when your sugar goes under that 70 deciliters. Okay. And it
Mm.
alarms everybody. It's
Oh
very
yeah.
right, because you want to make sure you get up, from your sleep at night, or if you're working or whatever you're doing, and go ahead and get into that kitchen and get you something so that you can bring those sugars back up. So you can go ahead and let me, before we go into a little bit more about it, Grant, let's check in this chat real quick and just say
Yeah,
hey
I
to a
got
couple
some
more
more in
people.
there. Yeah.
All right, so T Spilling said, hey girl, how you doing? Let's see who else is in here. Brenda says her A1C, her husband, I'm sorry, A1C was 23.6.
That's
And when I say I ain't never heard that before in life, wow,
yeah.
23.6. I didn't even know it can go that high.
I didn't either.
Hello, Miss Linda. How you doing? Thanks for coming in. All right. Z says she has type 2 diabetes, type 2 as well. Diagnosed July, I guess, of 2025. A1C is now 8. No, A1C was 8.9.
Mm.
Okay. Thank you for that, Z. All right.
And
Okay.
here's
And
a
the
lot
other
right
question,
answered there.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. You've answered that. Thank you, Felicia, for that question. And Grant has already went over that. Right, 23.6. I have never heard of that a day
Yeah.
in my life. Wow.
That's wow.
And I thought mine was high. Oh my
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. All right, so Cookie says, I would like to learn a little more about diabetes. One of the brothers is diabetic. One of her brothers is diabetic, and my baby daddy, aka my ex-husband, is also diabetic. Maybe I can learn something or at least understand their lingo. Yes. Thank you, Cookie, for coming in, and thank you for sharing that. Right. Dang, Brenda. Yes. Praise God, Grant. Look, praise God, Brenda, that your husband is still with us today.
Yes.
She said, "Yep." The doctor looked at us and said, in all his years of practice in medicine, he never seen anyone with the A1C that high. 23? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Hello, doses of Shiny. How are you doing, sweetheart? Thanks for coming in, Darium, as well as Miss Shiny. Cookie says, Brenda, did they run a second test just to make sure that the reading was correct? Wow. Brenda said, happy to say that my husband is on Mounjaro and his A1C is around 7.1
Wow.
in general. Awesome, awesome,
Miracle
awesome.
there.
Brenda,
Mm.
thank you, Lord, for that. And then I think once it goes back down to like 7 or under, they do, look at it as, it's more manageable, especially with, if you're on a medication, like a GLP-1 medication. So yes, that's awesome, Brenda. Again, thank you for sharing that. All right,
Yeah.
Darian says, thank you all for sharing your experiences and perhaps helping someone else. Yes, thank you, Darian, for that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go a little bit more. Yep. Z says, Darium, Sugar Survivors. I like that name. Yes. Sending prayers to you and your family daily. Darium says to Brenda. Felicia says, I've seen diabetics or diabetes break down my entire family. My dad is the only one who has his diabetes managed. I praise God for Manjaro. That's
Yes.
another testimony. Yes, to answer prayer. Thank you, Lord, for that. All
Mm-hmm.
right. Let's see who else is in there. All right. Brenda says, Cookie, it was correct. 100%. Every time he checked my husband for the year, the lowest his A1C went down was 19. Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Wow. Wow. And Darren says, I'm so glad your dad got it under control, Felicia. I'm so sorry that your family has experienced so much. Yes. And I remember when we talked about it, me and Felicia and I, she said, I'm the only one that thank God didn't had not developed diabetes yet, but she wanted to make sure she got on a medication, Zepbound, to make sure she could reclaim her health and make sure her A1C would stay under control, so she won't have to deal with having diabetes. All right, let's see who else is in this chat. I'm going to skip the highs, y'all. Thank you for understanding. All right. So, Manjaro Pam, of course, she's on Manjaro for diabetes. And she says, she has had too many times with low blood sugars. Hello, Cal Vlogs. Thanks for coming in tonight. Now, of course, I'm going to say hey to the people that I haven't seen so far. All right. Cookie states, wow, Brenda, thank God it's down to 7 now. Yes. Awesome. Awesome. Let's see who else is there in here.
Saw Mia in there.
You saw Mia. I'm sorry, Mia. Look, charged him a little eyes. Like, oh, you saw Mia and you see her. I don't see her yet. I might
Mm.
have missed. But hello, Mia. How you doing, sweetheart? I don't know if I probably went too fast. There, I see Mia right there. Hello, sweetheart. Sugar, 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 sugar talk. Hello, all. Thanks for coming in, sweetie. I had not got to your message. Okay. Look, Darium says, I knew nothing at all about diabetes. The numbers, the ranges, the A1C, what is high, what is low, feeling when the glucose drops, or even go higher. Because some people, when it goes high, too high, it makes them feel jittery and everything. So, and other things too. There are other side effects as well. I was oblivious to it all. Yes, Darium, that's so true. Which is why I think Sugar Talks is again appropriate for the
Yes.
moment. All right, who else is here? So Felicia says, my dad was the same way too, Darium, oblivious. All right. Z says, I do not feel the lows when my glucose drops. See, that's how I am too, Z, as well as, you know, Grant here. He doesn't, we don't start feeling it until it gets like 50 something. And the lowest it needs to go, or the acceptable lowest, I guess, is 70. And you
Mm,
really don't want it at 70, right? Because then that's too, it may go start going down even further. And
right.
that's good. So, yes. Let's see. Yeah. Yes, I love you all for moderating for me. Greatly appreciate you all so much. All right, Darium says I had a crash course, but I'm still learning so much. Yes. All right. Darium says there are so many of us who are living with a diabetes diagnosis of varying types. Yes. Yes, like I said, at one point we heard about diabetes, like type 1 diabetes, then we heard about type 2 diabetes, but there's other diabetes types as well out here that a lot of people don't know anything about.
Mm.
And we'll talk about that, at a later time. Okay, let's see who else is there. Yes. Thank you, Darren, letting everybody know that we are talking about diabetes tonight. All right. And then Brenda says, Hi, Darren. Yes, he has. And thank you so much. I am so grateful for you and your prayers. Yes. All right. And then we have another. Let me see. Let me see if there's anything. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. All right. I think that's it for the chat. All
Hmm.
right. So before we go on further, Felicia has a question as well. Grant, did you live with hypertension before or after being diagnosed with diabetes? Also, did you have to see a cardiologist?
Well, I did have high blood pressure and high cholesterol actually ever since I was 8. I've been battling with that. Um, still remember my pediatrician telling mom he's already got high cholesterol. So,
Mhm.
a lot of genetic there
Mhm.
that I'm dealing with. Uh, but uh, I did end up seeing a cardiologist. My dad actually died at 47 with
Okay.
a.
Sorry to
We
hear that.
think it was a heart attack.
Mhm.
Him and mom got divorced when I was 5, so I stayed with her and was finally getting to start getting closer to him when he died, and it's kind of sad. But at
Mhm.
the same time, you know, the diabetes and everything else comes from my dad's side primarily.
Gotcha.
My mom's side actually has kidney disease that runs rampant most of the time,
Mhm.
but it's called polycystic kidney disease, where you
Okay.
have cysts in the kidneys. But thankfully, mom didn't end up with it, and it doesn't skip a generation. So it's one thing that once it stops, it doesn't flow down. But
Mhm.
in any case, so my dad's side had the diabetes, the high cholesterol, the high blood pressure, and and so I figure he had all that. He just didn't go to the doctor apparently very
Mhm.
well, and he died from smoking too and all that. So
Mhm. Gotcha.
uh, once that happened, I felt like I better get checked out,
Right. Right.
and I was probably about 28, 30 years old when I went to the cardiologist the first time, and everything was clear. But they did tell me if you don't change your ways, then within 10 years, you're going to be in pretty bad shape. Well, I'm at
Mhm.
that mark now.
Mhm.
And I think that was always at the back of my mind
Right.
to where that's why when I turned 40 last January of 25, I said, I got to buckle down.
Yes.
And so hopefully now that everything's being managed and I am on medication for the hypertension still, and they've played with milligrams of this and that and the other.
Mhm.
And right now I was 107 over 67 just about an hour ago. So they
Mhm.
have it managed pretty well.
Right.
Thankfully, I would love to go off all that medication, but
Mhm.
just like Mounjaro, if I have to stay on it, for life, I will.
Exactly.
Just to do
Exactly.
what I have to do
Exactly.
to fight the genetics
Right.
of these diseases.
Right, right, right. And you have some people that have the genetics, and and then you have some people that don't. For me, I don't have genetics of it.
Yeah.
Nobody in my family, my mom that I know of, I should say, had it. But I do have aunts, like my grandmother had two sets of kids. So, you know, um, my mom's dad was different than say one of my aunt's dads, of course, and so that side of the family has it, from the dad. So my mom's dad side didn't have it, and then my grandmother did not have it. So yeah, so I think mine came from more so just the lifestyle that I was living. I
Yeah.
had also hypertension. Once I had my last baby, I developed a hypertension, and then not controlling it like I was supposed to, doing everything I wanted to do and just living life, and like I wanted to. Yep. And
We
so,
go through that denial. I think we
yeah,
all do.
yeah,
Because, I was actually diagnosed with diabetes probably 2 years before I started Mounjaro last year.
okay,
And I just was like, all right, I'll try metformin.
mm-hmm,
Not going to do that anymore because I reacted bad with that.
yeah,
So I just said, forget it all.
yeah,
And then, between going to the bathroom 5 times a night
mm-hmm,
and the neuropathy being a lot worse, I don't. It's not all the way gone now, but
mm-hmm,
it's a lot better than it was. I
right.
used
It's
to
more
have the
manageable.
worst nerve
Mhm.
pain in my
Right.
ankle.
Uh-huh.
I'd be just laying down at night
Yes.
and zing, and it just kept going. I You can't do anything about that. No
Hmm.
ice packs, no heat. It doesn't. It just has to finally stop on its own.
Right.
It's the
Uh-huh.
oddest feeling. I don't know if you've ever had that or not, but it's very uncomfortable.
Right. So since I've developed diabetes, I have had like a little bit of tingling in my fingers a little bit.
Mhm.
I think I caught or was able to control my diabetes so quick. I think that helped it not progress. But yeah, sometimes I have, my fingers go numb. Neuropathy normal. A lot of times you feel in your fingers and your feet. You can be other places, but normally you feel it there. And so sometimes my fingers are numb, a little bit. So I have to, like really rub them a lot just to try to kind of wake them back up. Poor circulation happens as well. I have that. But other than that, that's pretty much it for me. But I try
Sure.
to get my A1C. That's why I try to get it back down so fast,
Mhm.
and was able to get it down in 5 months because I'm like, hey, I know people that have lost limbs, had to get their limbs amputated. Also, some people that passed from it, and just a lot of different things, and I didn't want that for myself. So I decided I got to get this under control. And
Yes.
so me being on Mounjaro, I knew that was going to help me. I just knew it, you know. And while I did pray about, back in the day when I had hypertension, I'm like, because hey, God, take care of this, heal me from it. The thing I didn't do back then, I didn't do the work, And I remember scripture, faith without works is dead. So I had to put in the work, and I was missing that component of it. So this time I decided, no, I'm going to do both. I understand now that it requires both faith and works. And
Yes.
so that's what, I prayed about it, believe God that he's healed me. And then also I had to do the work as well. So
Yeah.
that's why it's so important. Like I said, for us to understand, you know, diabetes and understand how like how our body functions and what we need to put in our bodies to help it, and even these devices like the CGM to see how everything works in the body when we decide to eat certain things, how our blood is being how our blood is going up or down, or is it staying stable or whatever. So let's talk about that a little bit, Grant. When it comes to the CGM, you're
Sure.
using a continuous glucose monitor right now as we speak. Um,
Yes.
let's talk a little bit about that. Why did you decide to use CGM instead of using a glucose monitor?
Well, I've always been in technology anyways. So that was kind of my way to really get into this journey when I first started last year. I'm like, all right, what technology is available to help me here?
Mhm.
And of course, this the scales. I didn't go crazy with that. I just got a cheap one, but it still connects to my phone. The blood pressure app, connecting to your phone, and
Mhm.
then just kind of naturally went to the CGM next, and of
Mhm.
course that connects to your phone as well, and. Uh, and then not having to prick the finger anymore is what really made me want to do that. Um, but I can kind of, if you want me to go ahead and proceed on showing some details of it, I can.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And before
Okay.
you go into it, I remember you
Mhm.
saying to me one time that you were actually wearing two CGMs at one time.
Yeah, that actually was last week. I always used the Libre 3
Mm-hmm.
Plus,
Okay.
and then I thought I would try Dexcom.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, there I had a prescription for both because I didn't know
Okay.
which one I was going to like,
Right.
which one insurance was going to cover, or which one was going to be cheaper. So, the Libra 3 ended up being cheaper, and even though insurance doesn't cover either one,
Mhm.
unfortunately, at this time, because
Right.
I'm not on insulin.
Mm-hmm.
Good problem, but still,
Right.
yeah. So with the Libra 3 Plus, I pay $75 a month for
Hmm.
two sensors,
Okay.
and each sensor will last 15 days. So you get
Okay.
a whole 30 days per order.
Okay.
Um, in comparison to Dexcom,
Mm-hmm.
does now offer a 15-day, but the default one you get is a 10-day.
Okay.
And in checking the price of that,
Mm-hmm.
without insurance, it's $285 for 220 days.
Whew. Uh-huh.
And kind of working with the pharmacy just to see if there's any other coupons. They did find one,
Mm-hmm.
but it was $65 for one. So
Right.
you're paying 130 for two
Mm-hmm.
for only 20 days out of the month.
Right.
And
Okay.
that's a no-brainer there to
Right.
me.
Exactly. Exactly.
Um, because $75 is bad enough. But
Right.
in any case, so that kind of has solidified which one I still like the best. But in
Mm-hmm.
comparing, that was one comparison I found.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then if you want to go ahead and share my screen there, that'd be
Yes. All right.
um,
Now let me take her.
okay. So
Before you
here,
start, let me see if I can take this chat off. Hold on.
oh sure,
All right.
there we
Okay,
go.
there you go.
So this is an image of actually comparing the two apps at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, my Dexcom did run out, so I don't have that live anymore. But this is an image I took back when I did, and this side is the Libre 3 Plus, and then this side is the Dexcom.
Mm-hmm.
Another comparison here is this one to me looks a lot more appealing, a lot easier to read
Right.
than the Dexcom.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a lot of personal preference, I will say here too, but because some people started with Dexcom and they probably like it better, just like people started with Apple or Android.
Right.
Usually, what you start with is what you like better. But
Right.
in this case, in just comparing and trying to look from the above view, this Libre looks a lot better. But in any case, so to show what I have live, here's the Libre 3.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see the times here and that the level has stayed pretty well in the 70, 80, 90 range for me most of the day.
Mm-hmm.
I cheated a little bit tonight and had some pizza. So as you can see, that spiked up to about 153.
Uh-huh.
But thankfully, Mounjaro is doing its job and got my pancreas working, and it's gone back down. Kind of went a little low, and that's
Mm-hmm.
before we went live. So I
Right
thought,
before.
I'll do a blood test. And actually, I don't know if this is what you call false low. It probably was, but not too long after that, it rebounded to where it is now at 109. And the cool thing about this is it'll show if it's starting to go up, go
Mm-hmm.
down, or stay the same. So it
Right.
looks like right now I'm staying steady at that.
Okay. Yep.
Eventually, it will stay down, and it'll hopefully go back to where it should be. But
Mhm.
uh, this is just an example of what eating does, especially if it's carbs, like I had.
Right.
Uh, and
Right.
it lasts a while. So you can still see it's 109, and I ate at 8 o'clock, so it's almost 3 hours later, and I'm still recovering from from that meal.
From
So
pizza. Yeah.
this device helps see what you react to the worst, and most people know carbs are the
Mhm.
worst for sugar because it turns into sugar when it's
Right.
digesting. So, but thankfully, it didn't stay up here
Right.
like some people would, or even above. So uh, there's that.
Mhm.
A few more things on the app that's really interesting.
Well, before you go there, go back to it because it looks like it went down a little bit. It went down one more. The great thing about the, it's showing now. Well, let's talk about a little bit just about the screen real quick. So you see where the red is.
Hmm.
For those who don't know about Libre 3, or being able to read the Libre, um, that means again that it went a little lower than it should have, and it stayed low a little bit longer than of course they want it to be, um, and so it dipped after he ate his food. So if you notice where it was before he ate his food, and then it wanted to go back down, which it should. It's so that's like baseline, and then when you eat, then of course most of our sugars are going to go up some. Okay, his actually spiked up more than likely. Where you see that arrow, it may have gone, and instead of being to the what what is that across, it probably actually shot up, so the arrow went up, which is what he was talking about. But
Right.
then after a while it started going back down, and it
Mm.
looks like it, from here it looked like it may have gone down pretty quick. And sometimes that happens when you eat certain things. Like he said, he actually decided to enjoy pizza tonight, which is fine. It's okay to eat pizza as a diabetic. But what can we do to kind of alleviate it going up so fast and going down so fast? I do want to just kind of share that. um, what you can do is you can, like, put a little bit, make sure you're having some fiber with your foods, or some fats, healthy fats, or you can have some protein with it. You can front load with, those things so that it can kind of help your sugars,
Right.
not go up as much. But I do remember my doctor telling me that, your sugars can, will go up. And, as long as it go up like to 50 deciliters from what your baseline was before you ate, and then it's going to start going down. So they're okay with it going up 50, deciliters up, and then you want most people that are not diabetic, their sugars will go up, but then they'll go down, back to baseline, 60 to 90 minutes after they've eaten. And then sometimes, like with people that have diabetes, it can take 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours for it to go back to where it's supposed to be. So
Mm.
that's not good because the sugars are all in your body, all, and it's not, there's not filtering in the cells it's supposed to filter in because there's too much of it. And
Right.
your pancreas is not, producing enough insulin to, or can't produce enough insulin to fight off as much sugar as we have. So I just want to kind of share that with people,
Absolutely.
for that, for educational purposes. And of course, I'm not a doctor. I'm just letting you know what I've, heard, from my doctors, from my dietitian, as well. And Grant is not a doctor either. We're just sharing our personal experiences and what we've, heard either through our healthcare providers or, through research of our own. And I, you know, always just want you to go ahead and make sure you're researching as well. All
Mhm.
right, so Grant, you can move forward. Um,
Okay. Sure.
and it's down to 105 now, so
Yeah.
you see how it's really giving us um, the Libre actually will give um, the numbers per minute. Okay, and Dexcom, you said it's every 5 minutes you get
Yeah.
another
Dexcom
reading?
only checks every 5 minutes, where Libre
Right,
is every minute.
every minute, yes.
And I just that's another con to the Dexcom, in my opinion.
Right.
But
Right. Right.
um, well, while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to go ahead and see what my blood says in
Mhm.
comparison to this reading.
So I'm happy it did go down, and I think at that point, because when right before we came on, y'all, he got that alert. I heard the noise. I said, "Oh, if we was on, that would have been perfect. It would have been right on the live." But so I was like, "You're gonna check your. So normally what they do, they want you to once you get a low reading, which is under that 70, then they want you to actually go and check, your glucose or your blood sugars with the actual real glucometer, so you can check your blood through your blood, because that's going to be more accurate. All right, doing a blood check. So he did go and do that, and that's when he found out it was false. What
It
reading did you
was,
get then? Do you remember?
it was 93 on the blood and it was showing 68 on Libra. So, it still shows false lows. And to answer, I think it was low carb queen I just saw. No,
Okay.
it was idiosyncrasy girl. Um, she asked if I find that the Libra gives a lot of false lows. For the most part, no. Mainly, as Darian already said too, it depends on the placement and when you're sleeping usually. And if you sleep on the where it's located on your arm, it will give you false lows, and that stinks. It really does. And you try not to sleep on it if you can try.
Hmm.
And some people can, some people can't. But in any case, but for the most part, other than when I'm sleeping, it doesn't usually give too many false lows. Now, last month there were two devices that were recalled, and I had to get free ones to replace them because they were going low all the time. But
Hmm.
at least they identified that that was a problem. So that
Yes.
kudos to Libre for that.
Right. Right.
Um, but in any case,
And they sent an email out to everyone that
yes,
has
he
had
did.
a Libre to let we have had some issues with, a specific, what is it called? Is it is it a stock? What do they call that? A specific number of Libres or whatever, and then told us, we need to, if we need to, get with them, we can send it back and everything. And then normally what they do is they'll give you a free one,
Yep.
and everything. So
Oh,
that's
they've
good.
replaced them every time I've had one get knocked off.
Right.
Had one. I've had one maybe actually just malfunction, and it said sensor is no longer working. Please replace. And it had like 4 days left, and I'm like,
Yes.
and they may ask for the device back.
Right.
So don't throw it away if that ever happens. But
Right.
um, still, you get a free one. I
Yes.
ran out of strips. I had one left and it aired out on me. So I can't do the blood right now unless
Okay.
Christy's watching. Why don't you bring me another one of these? I'm up in my office in another building from
Yes.
my house, so it's hard to
We
just
got
check
you.
in there. But
Right.
in any case,
Okay.
the reports on this though are pretty cool.
Yes.
You have daily reports,
Hmm.
and that just shows the whole day on another thing, and then you can actually go back to previous days. There's Tuesday. Tuesday was an awesome day.
Hmm.
Um, that's the Mondays when I replaced my sensor, so that's where there's a gap there at the end of the.
Right.
Um,
And how often do you have to replace it?
every 15 days.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's what's nice about this one too, right on the front screen. 12 days until sensor ends. So,
Yes. Yes.
um, but the other report that's really cool, and this really comes into play the longer you have it, is this GMI percent at the bottom.
Yes.
Um, and that stands for glucose management indicator.
Right.
Um, so, you can look at it based on the last week,
Hmm.
2 weeks, month, and 3 months.
Hmm.
And that's just estimating what your A1C is. I mean, it even
Yes.
says this indicator uses average glucose data. A GMI can be used as an indicator of how well your glucose levels have been controlled. So,
Right.
thankfully, I was 4.9 in December when they did my blood work. So, this
Mhm.
ain't too far from that.
Right. Exactly.
So that's a really good way to see how you're doing overall.
Right. Right.
I mean, they can tell you your average. It even gives your average per time of day.
Hmm.
Yeah, I eat more in the evenings usually, so that's why it's a little higher there. But still, nothing above 100 for average. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Even 90 days,
Awesome.
it's even better.
Right. Right.
Let's see. And then
So Mounjaro is doing its thing,
yes, it
and
is.
and then your lifestyle changes, losing the weight that helps,
Yeah.
I'm sure of it, and all of the things that you're doing, it appears that, the medication is working for you
Yes.
and you're doing the work as well. Because you also, from what I hear, you do, you're strength training now, you're exercising and everything. So that's awesome too. That's part of it to help you, better control your A1C as well. Those are some of the natural things. But then the Mounjaro, or if you're on Ozempic or whatever other, glucose medicine you're on, it also does the thing too. So when I hear, people say, "Oh, I'm doing it the natural way," for whatever your morbidity is, like, well, we're doing it a natural way too, but
Mhm.
we're also using a tool that also can help us, do um, it even better, So,
Let's try to see if I can do that alarm, but I don't think it's going to let me.
okay.
See, they even have a signal loss alarm.
Hmm.
I'll usually turn that off because if you walk away from your phone too long, it'll say, "Hey, I don't read you anymore."
Right.
Um, that kind of reminds me of one other thing before I forget.
Hmm.
Kind of a rare thing, but I actually had jury duty about 4 months ago,
Okay.
and you're not supposed to take your phone in there.
Right.
And I'm like, well, man, I got my sensor on.
Uh-huh.
And I have had this happen once. If you're away from your phone for too long,
Hmm.
it will void out that sensor
Hmm.
because it's been trying and trying and trying and trying. So it thinks it's aired out and it needs you to put a new one in.
Hmm.
Once it says that, there's no going back. So I said, what can I do? Because if I take my phone in anyways, that alarm's going to go off.
Right.
And they're going to look at me and hold me in contempt. I don't know. But um, so I said, well, what if I turn my phone off while I'm away from it for a while? And that worked.
Hmm.
It didn't air out because it wasn't trying and trying and trying. So
Right. Right. Right.
another little bit of a tidbit information for
Yes.
people that want to try to use it. Don't worry about being away from it too long. Just turn
Right.
your phone off if
Just
you
turn it off. Yeah. Yeah.
um, but the other cool thing is, you have all these handy reports in the app,
Hmm.
but also you can go online and look at reports even better and more in depth. Um, for Libra 3, it's libreview.com.
Hmm.
And you can just hit glucose reports, and it has a slew of data that you can print off for your doctor. Right down here, you can see you can print or save a PDF and email it or print it off and take it with you. Some fancy doctors even have a way to connect and see it
Right.
from their end. Mine's not quite there, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I can just give them this piece of paper, and I mean, this first report, it's for a period of 60 days here.
Hmm.
But you can change that under settings, though, and just uh, do it 90 days, up to 90 days. So that's cool.
Yeah, that is cool. I
But
never knew about this when I was using the Libre. I didn't know about the website. The rest
yeah,
of the things that you're saying, yes. Of course, I had it on my app as well. But yeah, I didn't. That was, when you were telling me a little bit about this, I thought that was very interesting, as well.
but
And
I've
my
never
doctor,
went into the very high category, which I'm very thankful for.
yeah,
Never have.
right, right, right. Yes, awesome, awesome,
Um,
awesome.
but you can just scroll through and see
Mhm.
your.
I'm hoping y'all can see this.
Yeah, I can.
Let's see. Let us know if you can't see it.
Here we go. That's a little bigger, and yeah, you can see your ranges. All that red is from those recalls for the most part, so
Uh
I'm
huh.
not too worried. I can't wait for that to finally go out there. But
Right, right.
I mean, it even gives daily, averages there too. So
Hmm.
there's lots of ways to show the data to whoever needs to see it. This
Right.
one even notates your lows at any time.
Hmm.
Um, But to answer a question I happened to see, wow, it's been a little longer than I thought.
Yeah, I'm about to say, let me go back up. And
Is
thank you all to the moderators for moderating the chat for me. I greatly appreciate it. You know,
definitely.
every one of you, I greatly appreciate it.
Um, okay. Oh, this was a question for you. He wanted you to discuss the low glucose warning protocol.
Hold on. I'm trying to find it.
Yeah, it was at 2301.
Oh, yeah, let me go up. I went too far down. Scroll up some more. Oh, you know what? 2302, you said 20, what?
2301.
Trying to get it just to put it on the screen. Oh, I went too far up with this.
But while you're looking for that,
Yeah.
the
Yes, thank you.
other website, I went ahead and looked at was the Dexcom website, which is logged out on me. So let me get back in there. And it actually looks a lot better than the app on the reports. Then Libre is pretty much, I feel like they're pretty much the same quality, but
Mhm.
Dexcom online is a lot better than the app, in my opinion. And and as you can see, you got kind of a similar look as the Libre there. You got your, of course, I don't have as much data. I just had 8 days. Guess my last two didn't end up going on here, but in any case,
Mhm.
let's see. See, here's an AGP like the other one had,
Uh-huh.
and this shows a lot of the same data that the Libre does. But the big thing for this is just being able to find something easy to share with your doctor instead of trying to show her your phone or him. So,
Right, right,
um,
right.
but yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, you okay? Awesome. Thank you for sharing all this information. This is great information
Yeah.
for those who are diabetic or those who are not diabetic. And of course, it's up to you whether you use the your what CGM you use if you decide to use the CGM, but always make sure you're still having that regular glucometer, that actually checks your blood because again, while the CGM works wonders, for people that are, type 2 diabetic, also some people, I know there are people that also that are not diabetic, but they may be insulin resistance and they decide to get a CGM as well. They may have to
Mhm.
pay out of pocket for it, of course, because again, you're not, diabetic, so then they may not give you a prescription for it. You may not find a doctor that will give a prescription for it because insurance is like, or PBMs are like, no, it's just for the diabetics. But it's good for those who are insulin resistance also because it insulin resistance can lead to diabetes. So if you're trying to, get control of everything and making sure you're claiming your health, it may be something that you want, you may want to look into. I know Mia was, thinking about it herself and she's not diabetic, but she wanted to, see how her blood glucose, whether it goes up or down, how it's, the things that she's eating is how it's affecting her blood glucose. And I think that's, very interesting, you know um and I think that's great for her to, look into, and to see how it's going so she can know even more, using that as a tool again to see how great she's doing on her journey,
Right.
all right, to better health. All right, so Darian had asked about can I discuss the low glucose warning protocols? And I'm not sure. I couldn't find the as well as the. I'm not sure what that said, but if you're using a CGM or even if you're using, a glucometer to check your blood, and like I said, it's normally with the glucometer, it's every moment. So you use the CGM, you can have that in the back of your arm. If you use the Libre, they're checking your the device, or it's gonna your blood sugars are going to be checked once every minute, okay? And it'll give you that information like Grant has, so graciously showed us tonight. But say if you check your, blood glucose by the glucometer only, then you only know that particular minute, which is what I kind of explained a little earlier. For some reason, if it does go low, okay, under that 70 deciliters, um, then you want to make sure that you hurry up and get to that food, some kind of food, a simple carb, okay? Um, so a lot of times now there's several different things that you can use to get that blood glucose back up to the normal range. And like I said, you want to make sure it's above 70. But if for some reason you've gone under 70, you want to make sure it goes well over 70, okay? I've heard, try to get it back to 100, and then with a simple carb. So like some people use peppermint, some hard candy. That's and I'm just going to give you like just some things that I know that works. Some people in the chat, you can put other things that have worked for you or for maybe your loved one to get the numbers back up to where it needs to be. But if for some reason you get an alert that say, "Hey, wah, 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 wah," that's my alarm, y'all. Your blood sugar's too low. That's considered hypoglycemia, which means low blood sugars, and that's like I said, typically when it's under 70 um, milligrams per deciliter. All right, you want to make sure immediately um, consume 15 to 30 gram. I'm sorry, let me see, 15 to 20 grams of fast acting carbs, which is the simple carbs of it all. Which is like I said, you can get hard candy. You can get some people get orange juice, something
Hmm.
that's going to raise that blood sugar, spike it up really quick. Okay. And then once it gets to, you also can do, there's glucose tablets that people use as well to help it get up pretty fast. Try to take 3 to 4 glucose tablets. That'll help. Again, orange juice or any other like really really sweet juices, like with apple juice or something like that, you can use that. Get like at least 4 ounces of that will help. um, like I said, hard candies would help, like peppermints. That helps as well. And any other kind of hard candies that that's very, very sweet, that also helps. And then once you actually, consume that, you want to also make sure you recheck your blood glucose every 15 minutes, okay? Every 15 minutes, so that you can make sure that it has gone back up to where it's supposed to go. Now, say if say, okay, I'm going to do sugar free, you know, um, you know, items or drinks or foods or even candies. It may take a little longer for it to go back up. Okay, you want to try to get that thing up as quick as possible. Okay, because the more it goes down, the more dangerous it is for our lives. When you think about it, you don't have a so more far to go down. If you're under 70, you can go up a long way. I've heard sugars be 1,000, glucose readings be 1,000 or over, right? But when it comes down to going down under 70, then you want to make sure you get there, get that sugar back up as fast as you possibly can. All right.
Yeah.
Um, and again, some people, they do not have they don't know when the sugars are low. Unfortunately, there's no indications when the sugars are low, which is unfortunate. That's why a lot of times it's good to have to use that CGM, so that you'll have a better idea of where your blood sugars are. Even if it does read sometimes wrong, even though sometimes it alarms in the at the most inconvenient time when you're trying to sleep and everything, or
Right.
like I said, if you're in court or whatever and it just starts ringing like crazy, that can be a little disturbing to you as well as other people. However, if you have these issues where especially you don't feel the things, you don't feel the woes of it going down, then yes, it's very good to be able to use a continuous glucose monitor, even if it is a little off, a little
Hmm.
behind the regular glucose monitors. Another thing you can do is, because I'm going to look things up as well just to see if I missed some things. And so I noticed also on a website, it shows that 1 tablespoon of sugar, honey, or corn syrup also helps.
Hmm.
Right? Soda. also helps.
Yep.
Okay. I just bought some regular because I love Cokes, y'all. But which, if you've heard me before, I talk about them. Yes, and I still love regular Coke, even though most of the time I drink a diet Coke or really a Coke, no sugar,
Mhm.
Coke, a sugar-free Coke. But I know if my sugar start going low, and I know it's under 70, I'll go ahead and drink me a regular Coke, so I did purchase some Coca-Colas. I don't have the glucose tabs. I know a lot of, some of us do have glucose tabs. I haven't purchased those yet, but I definitely know that helps. They also have glucose gels. Okay. The glucose gels, you can do one tube of the gel, take that, and that also helps it bring it back where it's supposed to be. When I said fruit juice, I talked about orange juice, I talked about apple juice, but also it suggested cranberry juice as well. That can help it go up, pretty quickly. And then, like I said, you can wait 15 minutes. After those 15 minutes, um, and that's to allow your sugar to go, to give that sugar the time to rise up. And then once you do that, you do your recheck. You recheck with that regular glucose monitor. That's why it's most important to have one, handy. Even if you are using a CGM, you always want to make sure you have that glucose monitor handy as well, just in case, because you want to make sure, was that a false low, or is it a true low? Because you need to take action. Okay. Um, and then, like I said, you recheck, and if it's still below 70 milligrams per deciliter, then you want to repeat the 15-gram of carbs intake, of 15 to 20 grams of carb intake, until you can get it back up to where it should be. Okay.
Yes.
I've heard 100, and then once you get to 100, then you can make sure you eat something that's going to balance, and which is what I was talking about. Instead of just not just carbs at that point, you want to make sure you're eating like a fiber, a good protein, or a good fat, a healthy fat, to balance that sugar on back off. Okay, so
Mhm.
you won't go too high, of course,
Yep.
because you can have hyperglycemia and it goes way, like spikes up over too high. So that's
Yep.
that's what I've learned about that. All right.
One thing I saw, I'll comment on my Mounjaro journey with Pam.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, it does hurt putting it in. I'll be honest, in the arm, but it doesn't hurt for very long.
Right.
It just about 5 minutes, and it's over. Your arm gets used to it, and it's
Mhm.
not like the needle is staying in there. Don't think that. I thought that at first,
Yeah.
and I'm
Eh,
like, how
mhm.
the heck does that work?
Right.
And it's actually only used to insert the filament into the skin, and then once it does that, it comes back out.
Mhm.
Um, I can kind of show you.
And for me, it did not hurt me at all. So I think it just depends. It's just like,
Yeah,
if you're on Mounjaro or
right.
one of the GLP ones, some people, when they do it in the arm, back in the arm, when they, inject in the back of the arm, it hurts them really bad.
Yeah.
Some people it don't. It don't normally hurt me. So you saw me, on my on my video. I'm like, boom, and it's done. I was the same way with the CGM.
So,
So it just depends on the individual.
here's the Libre 3 Plus right
Yes,
here.
thank you for that. Hmm.
And, you unseal the seal on it and you unscrew it. And then here it is. And yes, there's the needle.
Right.
But again, this thing only inserts it, it doesn't stay in there. And all you do is you put it near the fatty part of your arm here, back here. And then all you do is push it and
Yeah.
out.
So you're pushing
I,
that white part, and then
yes,
it'll
it's like a
push.
stamp,
Yep.
like
It's
a
just like a
stamp.
stamp. Yep.
And that's another thing. And I didn't bring my old G7 up, but that was another big difference between the two.
Hmm.
And I think I might have just did a boo boo. That's all right. I'll
Uh-oh.
just put it in. I'll just put it right like that. Um, because if you try to force the cap back on, that needle will bend. So we're not going to do that. But in any case, the Dexcom looked a lot the same, but when you had to hold it up and then you had to push a button to get
Hmm.
it in.
Okay.
And to me, that was a little harder because
Hmm.
you didn't just go boom and done. You had
Right.
to go boom and then get the nerve up to hit a button and then go in.
Hmm.
Kind of like with our Mounjaro pins or whatever. You have to hit that
Gotcha.
button.
Yeah.
So I didn't like that either. I mean,
Right.
there
Right.
was just a lot of cons on the Dexcom, in my opinion. But
Uh-huh.
in any case, but as for it hurting worse than
Hmm.
the Zepbound or Mounjaro pins, I don't think it does. I mean,
Hmm.
it's about the same. But
Yeah.
I don't take my shot in my arm. I do it my gut. So,
I got you.
and that's partly why, because I can feel the pain up here
Right.
more, because I guess there's not as much fat for it to go into there
Yeah.
now.
Right,
So,
right, right, right. And I think that's what I was wondering when I heard, some people that say they have issues, with the injection of the GLP-1 in their arms. I'm like, it maybe depends on how, fatty the arm is. And I have bat wings, so, I have a lot of, I have a lot that I can, and I'm okay, so yeah, I gotcha. And so Z says, and I'm not sure if I missed anybody else up further along. Um,
there's been a lot of chat, but I was
I
just trying
know.
to monitor
Yeah.
questions.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Mhm.
Look at him. He monitoring right.
I'm moderating it as I do.
I know that's right. I know that's right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Look, it takes a village
Yeah, absolutely.
because my eyes don't work as quick. Okay, so let me see what else. So good. So Z says she usually do the finger prick or stick, but sometimes if I find that a particular Libre is reading low, I don't bother. But after last weekend, I will do the finger sticks. Okay, great, great, great.
Yeah, she had a low that was actually low. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And sometimes, like Grant today, when he checked it, it wasn't as low as they said. He was good, but so
very
he had
safe
like
and
a false
sorry.
reading.
Yeah,
And he would, and I know sometimes you also have compression lows.
right.
If you're laying down on it, say if you sleep at night, which that's what I was having a lot of compression lows, especially when I first put it. When I change it to a new one device. Sometimes the first day or two, it takes a while to kind of get where it's supposed to be at and work properly. But yeah, I would have a. I remember one night it was like it rang like 8 times. It was crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it does.
So what else is there? I'm trying to see if I is there anything else we need to
Well,
talk
Kendi
about.
K came in, so hello to her.
Hello, Candy K.
And
And I want to say
T2.
hello to everyone that has come in that I may have missed. I'm sorry for that.
Yeah, T2 was another one I saw.
Hello, T. Let's see. Hold on. All right, I'm looking a little further down this chat. Let me see if see, and that's Candy K right there. Yes, yes. Thanks for coming in, Candy K. All day. I love
All
saying that.
day.
Yes. So let me see. I know Mill says a CGM company online. Let's see. And she says, all right, because I did speak about Mia wanting to get a CGM. She says my insurance company denied me getting one. And when I tried for a free one, I answered the questions on the test honestly, and they said I didn't qualify for one. So unless I pay for signals, the weight loss, let me see, the weight loss CGM company online, I
Yeah.
can't get a free CGM. Okay.
So it must be because she said she wasn't diabetic.
She was
That's
not bad,
probably
right?
why. That's
Right.
interesting.
And then sometimes they, like you said, they want you to be diabetic on insulin. And see,
Yeah.
for me, I was on insulin when I was in the in the hospital, and I had to come home with insulin. So they also offered me the CGM. At first, I was like, something in my arm is gonna just stay there for 15 days. I don't know about that. But my sister, thank God, she was there with me. She's a nurse, and she's like, I think you're gonna like that because the needles, unfortunately, they kept sticking me with them while I was in the hospital, checking it so they can, hoping that my glucose would go down. It took
Mm.
2 days for it to go back to the normal. Okay.
Wow.
But yeah, so they had to keep pricking my finger and checking it the
Mhm.
regular way, through the glucose monitor, the regular glucose monitor. And she was like, "You don't like that? It's making it, your fingers turn black and blue. So yeah, you might want to try the CGM." So I was like, "Okay, let's do it." I was just scared of it. I was nervous about it, and it
Uh,
worked.
Another advice, the last little bit I have on the
Hmm.
CGM is
Yes.
when you put it on, before you put it on, of course, you want to use an alcohol swab on the area, let it dry. Something I saw on various when I first started was this skin glue, and all this
Yes.
is are little, just like an alcohol swab size. And
Mm-hmm.
I actually rubbed that on after, in the same
Mm-hmm.
area after the alcohol,
Yes.
and that really helps it adhere a lot
Mm-hmm.
better. Um, and that helped for a while, and it still does. But then I started knocking my arm on stuff like the car door or whatever a lot more. So I was like, well, what else can I do? Because I'm getting tired of having to try to get free replacements because of my arm hitting things. And so on Amazon, they actually have these little patches that you can put on top of it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's on my other one right now, but it actually, in addition to this patch, comes with a little hard cover that you reuse. And so you basically just put it on the center of this and put it over to where you have even more protection, and um, it doesn't block any signal or anything either. So
Right. Right.
that's just a couple more tidbits or
Yes.
suggestions if you're going to be trying to do this, or if you already are and didn't know about this. But
Right.
this skin glue is at Walgreens, and it was only like $10 for 40 wipes. So
Mm.
this is the same box I got a year ago. I'm still on that
Okay, cool. Yes. All
because
right.
it's only two a month. So
Right. Exactly. And you can also get them because I got mine. I had a clear one. Or you can get different colors so it can kind of match your skin, or it's up to you which one you get. But you can also get them from Amazon as well. They have them, and
hmm
some of them are a little cheaper. I had a lot. I got a lot of them, for little to no money. So
yeah,
that way, if you missing, hit a chair, missing, go up against a wall or something like that, rub against a wall, that thing won't come out. Yeah.
right.
All right, so let's see what else. So Darian did say he has a glucose kit. He has glucose tabs, gel, juice boxes, and a backup glucometer. After it's stabilized, what he would do is eat some peanut butter crackers,
Yep,
which is what I was kind of talking
that's
about
my
earlier.
go-to.
Yeah,
Mm.
trying to get that glucose back up to a certain amount, and your doctor will let you know exactly what it's best for you, and then you might want to eat something that. And so those peanut butter crackers, the peanut butter gives you render some protein and some fat, and then the crackers, of course, is the carbs. Yep.
Mhm.
So that's
Sorry.
awesome. That's okay.
You just all of a sudden start playing on my phone out of the blue. There we go.
So, so Candace K says, I thought y'all told me the GLP sticks don't hurt.
Yeah,
It
Darian said
depends
it
on your
depends on your
pain
pain
tolerance.
tolerance. Yeah.
Yep. It
Hmm.
depends on where you, actually inject that week. Yep. Darius said he's a whelp.
I am too. When it comes to my arms,
With that
especially.
arm, yeah, yeah.
Now the thigh I tried once and it didn't really hurt, but it didn't go in as well. I had a lot of bubble up, so I said, I'm just going to stick to the old gut.
Hmm. Yep. Pammy said she was scared of that arm thing too herself. Let's see.
Shopping like, yeah,
Huh?
uh, can't, shopping like this depression. I decided to try it. It wasn't so bad after all. Okay.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
got you, Pammy. Yes. Yes. To me it's the arm is very easy to do. I don't like the leg. I don't like that thigh. That thigh,
Yeah.
yeah. It's not
Mhm.
thigh. Nope. Yeah. It when I did my thighs, I've had a mark on my thigh, and it stayed for months for some reason. Yeah. So I'd rather not do the thigh.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kim K, she said she's never given herself a shot at any time.
Mhm.
I got you, Candy K. And they don't hurt, as per Cookie. Yes, they don't hurt. It's like little sting every blue moon. You just never know.
Right.
But the benefits of it outweighs that sting. I'm telling you right now. I have itching sometimes. Well, every week if I found something to help me, but it doesn't sting a lot, but it does, cause me to itch for some reason. But
Huh.
I didn't want to take. chance to not use the medication because it does so much more for me, than it does, the downsides of it.
Hmm.
If it was something serious, of course I would, not use it. But, I think I like weighing my pros and cons.
Right.
Yep. All right. And we just wanted to tell you all, a little bit about, options of whether, if you decide, you want to use a continuous glucose monitor. There's a lot of information, Grant, that you shared with us tonight. I greatly appreciate you for that. You
Sure.
know, even, deciding to use both of them at one time just to test things out to see which one you think was better. So for him, he thinks again the Libre 3 was better. I never even tried Dexcom, even though my insurance pays for it. I didn't try it. Since they gave me the Libre at the hospital, I just said I'm going to use that
Hmm.
because, of course, the information that it was on my app, and I didn't want to switch over and then don't have the information available on the app that I had already put on my phone. I really enjoyed it. So I didn't want to fix it, nothing that wasn't broken, right? So I
Yeah.
too paid $75 for two Libre devices per month. Yes. So Darium said compression lows. Let's see. When you lay on or put pressure on your CGM and it reads as a lowered glucose on your monitoring device, it will alert you. Yes, 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 yes.
Hmm.
So anything under 70 milligrams per deciliter, it's going to alert you, which is good, especially if it is truly low, right? All right, so let me look a little bit more further. And even I saw something rotating the site. Yes, with the
Hmm.
CGM, or if you're on a GLP-1 medication, you do want to rotate that site. Again, with the CGM, it's only approved for the back of your arm. Okay. So say if you had it in that stomach or in the thigh, like Grant said he saw, I've seen people have it in their stomach. It was better for them at night so they won't get, missing, roll over it, and get a compression low, hopefully, you know. But but if you have to call them and it, falls out for some reason, they're going to say they're not going to give it to you because the approved area is on the back of the arm. Okay. So they're going to ask you that, hey, where did you have it at? You know,
Right.
and if you say on the stomach, they're going to like,
Oh well.
look, sorry, look. Yeah. So,
Hmm.
and they too expensive to be, messing up, even if you have insurance.
Yes.
All right. Let's see. Let's see if I have something else out here. What is this here? Okay, so our friend Pammy says, who stays with us a few days for work, has a CGM, and he tested me about his CGM, texted me, I'm sorry, falling off, and he noticed it later. He said to watch out for the needle. Do do some have a needle?
No. No.
No, and he's
No.
probably calling it a needle. He
That
that
filament thing on it.
yes,
Yeah.
You may really need, Nikki says, to get an allergy panel done. Kim, I probably do. Quite a few things cause an reaction for you. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Darium's a Dexcom user, so like I said, it's all personal preference, really,
Right,
for
right,
sure.
right, right. So he's telling me to try the Dexcom.
Hmm.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because I haven't had the Libre in, since the end of 2024. So I've been just pricking my finger.
And if insurance covers it, you may want to try
Yeah. But
it.
even with that, even with insurance covering it, it's still higher than the Libre
You're kidding.
without the insurance. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. 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 So
Crazy.
Z says, I think Dexcom can be placed other places. Okay. Gotcha. Thank you for that. And again, thank you, TT, for coming in. Say, wait, I missed what y'all talk about. We talk about, we talk about, we're talking sugar talks. That's what we're talking.
Yeah. He used both of them. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay. All right. Yes. Okay. So my first thing, I guess, inclination of I wanted to use that GMI, because I wanted to know what my A1C was going to be that within those 3 months. So I got excited. I started using it, and I'm like, yeah, this doesn't, it was good.
Mhm.
And I really didn't have start having those compression, those, off the wall crazy compression lows,
Right.
until a little bit later on, and when I was
Sure.
almost to the point where I really didn't have to use it anymore. My doctor was like, "You really don't have to use it anymore." You know,
Right.
I took it off because I had to have an MRI. You can't go in that MRI machine with those devices. So they made me take it off, and it was earlier than those 15 days. So I was like, well, I'll wait until, the 15 days, the rest of the days up, and then I'll, just check it with the regular glucose monitor. And the GMI told me, indicated to me that, my A1C was going to be a 5.6 at the time. And then when I got my blood glucose done, my blood work done, it was actually 5.6. Yep.
Hmm.
So it gave me the right information.
That's
So
good.
that's why I really enjoyed that Libre, and letting us know, how I was doing. Hello, Jenny. Thanks for coming in, sweetheart. And like I said, if I miss anybody, because the chat was, going through pretty quick, and I wanted to make sure Grant, was able to get what he needed to get out to, share with us, on Sugar Talks, how important, checking your glucose is. I mean, he had real life, a real life, situation happen, right before the live. So I think it was very interesting. Thank you so much, Grant, for
Absolutely.
coming on, being my, my first guest on, Sugar Talks. Again, I think this is going to be so great, going forward. I'm really looking forward to what God is going to, do with this segment or this series. I thank you again for my moderators being in here, helping me throughout this chat. If I've missed anybody, please charge it to my eyes, not my heart. I love each and every one of you that have come into the chat today. Again, the moderators helped me through all of this. Low carb queen, auntie queen, thank you for coming in, sweetheart. As I'm going up this list, trying to look and see who all was here. Plus, I got this little, you're trying to look at the camera, so the camera, that little circle is up here. So I
Yeah.
try to make sure I'm looking up here, but the chat is over here on this right side.
Right.
I'm trying to look at you, Grant, because you right here on the left side, and I'm like, my eyes everywhere. So trying
Yeah,
to,
I understand.
yeah, just trying to get used to all of that. But anyway, so you all, do you have anything else to say, Grant, tonight?
No, it's just my pleasure to be on here with you, Kim. You do a lot to support the community, and we appreciate it for sure.
Yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And like I said, I just want to make sure that we are, educated about these things. If it's life experiences that we're sharing, if we're sharing stuff, that our doctors or our dietitians are telling us, it's good to, just talk to a community. I remember when I was in the hospital, right before I left out, and I've told this story before, but and sometimes I'm like, why, Kim, are you telling the story over and over? To be honest, it's my testimony, so I tell it. But she let me know, get with the community, find a community that you can, bond with, so
Mhm.
that you can talk things out, because they may have, dealt with these things that you may start, dealing with, or you may not, but it's be able to educate you a little bit more, because we have personal experiences. It's not just us hearing about it, but we are living it every single
Right.
day.
Mhm.
So it's, while I'm hearing certain things from people, I can now go back to my dietitian or my doctor and say, hey, I've been experiencing this. What do you think? You know, do you think this piece of information that I found out from my community, can I use it, for myself? And so, it'll give me things to talk to my doctor about, so that, I can make sure that I am reclaiming my health. I want to live long. I want to live healthy. And so that's what this is all about, and I don't want this for me. I, from the bottom of my heart, want it for each and every one of you. Okay.
Mhm.
Each and every one of you. And so I hope you, enjoyed Sugar Talks today, you know, and, I hope you will continue to come in, to the chat with me, and, learn a little bit about, our experiences, our personal experiences, as well as, the things that we've learned. Curious with Kim is gonna come on every channel, every night I come on. Curious with Kim probably gonna come. I will look some stuff up because I want to make sure I'm giving the information that 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 they deem that is how we can make sure we taking care of ourselves. I have
Yes.
a lot of stuff in my head, but I can't remember everything, y'all. I'm a woman, like Kenny K says, of a particular age, honey. Even when I was not a woman of a particular age, I still sometimes forget. That being said, I want to make sure I, give you as much as I can so that you can live your life to the fullest, okay? And live a long one, and that you can enjoy your sweet, healthy lives. All right. Okay. If all hearts and minds are clear, like I say all the time, let me see if something else has come in the chat. And again, if I missed something, I'm so sorry for that. Thank you. Thank you, Pammy. She says, great live. I do see that. Yes, Jenny Cookie says A1C was 5.1. Every reading was in range. Full labs done. That's awesome, awesome, awesome. For those who are on, a GLP-1 medication, or for those, for diabetes, or even, on another type of medication for diabetes, I pray all will be well with you, that your A1C goes down, back to the normal range at some point. Continue to do everything that you can do naturally to get it down, but also make sure you're taking your medications so that it can help you get it back under control as fast as it can, so that you won't have issues, that can, cause issues with your organs, okay? Or can also make you unalive at some point. So, yes, do that for me. I greatly appreciate it, y'all. Love you all. Thank you, Latanya, for coming in to the chat. Thank you for coming in to learn. Yes. All right. Yes, thank you, Mia. She said that's fabulous. All right, I think I've gotten through. Look, moderator, have you seen?
No, you're good.
Did I miss something? Okay, thank you. And
We
y'all just let,
appreciate it.
yeah. And I mean, look, I think we're better together. I say it all the time. I think we're better together, y'all.
Yes.
These chats go by, like I said, so fast. So like I said, I hope I don't miss anybody. I don't want to make, hurt people's feelings or whatever. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to,
No.
help, not hurt. Okay. So again, charges my heart. I mean, I'm sorry, charges my eyes and not my heart. Okay. And
Yes.
sometimes my head because I forget. All right. Okay, y'all. Good night. Good night. Good night. Love you all. Have a wonderful time. And until the next time, be blessed and peace.